He had been away for years, living a life of luxury, fast cars, and private jets, never imagining that a simple trip home could turn his world upside down. The billionaire's son stepped through the grand front doors of his family mansion, expecting the familiar warmth of home, but what he saw froze him in place. There, moving quietly through the hallways, was a face he hadn't seen in years, his childhood sweetheart. But she wasn't waiting for him with a smile or a hug. She was carrying a tray of drinks, dressed in a uniform that made her almost invisible among the opulence of his parents' world. Memories of shared laughter, secret games, and innocent promises came rushing back, clashing painfully with the reality before him. How did she end up here, working as a maid for his family? And why had nobody mentioned her name once during all these years? Questions spiraled in his mind, each one heavier than the last. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, a mix of nostalgia, shock, and something neither of them knew how to face. As he stepped closer, their eyes met, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. What would he do next, and could their past connections survive the walls of wealth and pride that now separated them? He couldn't take his eyes off her, but the hesitation in her glance told him everything. She had changed, yet the warmth in her eyes, the familiar tilt of her smile, brought back memories of simpler times when life hadn't been measured in wealth or status. He remembered sneaking out to the park together, sharing ice cream on hot summer afternoons, and promising they'd never forget each other. But life had pulled them in different directions. He had left for school abroad, chasing his father's empire, while she had stayed behind, facing struggles he had never known. Now, standing in the same house where they once dreamed of running away together, he felt a sharp twist of guilt and curiosity. How had she ended up here, working quietly for his parents? Was it necessity, or something more complicated? And why hadn't she reached out when he had returned home? His parents, oblivious to the tension, moved around the mansion, unaware that their son and the maid shared a history that could stir up old feelings and hidden secrets. As he lingered, watching her from across the room, he realized that their reunion was only the beginning, and that uncovering the truth could change everything, he thought. He knew about his family and the girl he once loved. He tried to act casual, but every step he took seemed to echo in the grand hall, making her glance up nervously. She quickly looked away, returning to her work, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, the careful way she avoided eye contact. It was as if the past had wrapped itself around them both, fragile and dangerous. He wanted to ask why she hadn't left, why life had kept her in the shadow of his family's wealth, but he hesitated. Words felt heavy, and the fear of breaking the fragile balance between them kept him silent. Meanwhile, his parents were busy discussing business matters, unaware that their mansion had become a stage for an unspoken drama. He noticed small things that hadn't registered before: the way she moved quietly around the kitchen, the way the staff treated her with a mix of respect and distance. There was more to her story than they all knew. He considered speaking to her privately, but every time he tried, she slipped away, polite but distant. His mind raced with questions. Had she resented him for leaving? Had she suffered because of circumstances tied to his family? And most importantly, could the connection they once shared survive the walls of pride, wealth, and unspoken secrets? The mansion, with all its luxury, suddenly felt like a maze of hidden truths, each hallway leading to a confrontation they weren't ready to face. Days passed, each one heavier than the last, as he watched her move through the mansion with quiet efficiency. Every glance, every small gesture reminded him of the girl he once knew, laughter they shared, the promises they had made, the dreams they had whispered under the stars. Yet now, there was a distance between them that neither of them seemed willing to cross. The tension built like a storm cloud, thick and unrelenting, and he felt it pressing down on him every time their paths crossed. He tried to find moments alone with her, asking questions that danced around the truth, but she remained guarded, her words careful, measured. Sometimes he caught a flicker of emotion: sadness, perhaps regret, or something deeper, but before he could reach it, it vanished. His parents' presence loomed constantly, their conversations about wealth and social appearances making it impossible to confront her directly. One evening, he found her standing by the grand staircase, lost in thought, a tray forgotten at her side. The air between them was electric, heavy with unspoken feelings and memories. He stepped closer, heart pounding, desperate to bridge the gap, but at that moment, a loud crash echoed from the other wing of the mansion. His parents rushed toward the noise, leaving them alone. The world seemed to shrink to the two of them, and for a heartbeat, everything: the past, the present, the unresolved tension hung in the balance. As the echoes of the crash faded, he noticed something that made his blood run cold: a folded envelope tucked beneath the tray she had dropped. Without thinking, he picked it up, recognizing his childhood sweetheart's handwriting on the front. His hands trembled as he opened it, revealing a set of papers that looked official, almost legal, with stamps and signatures he didn't recognize. Confusion and suspicion battled in his mind. Why would she have something like this hidden in the middle of the mansion? She noticed his discovery instantly, her eyes widening with a mix of fear and resignation. I didn't want you to see this yet," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He could feel the weight of unspoken truths pressing down on him, heavier than the luxurious walls surrounding them. The envelope contained more than he could have imagined, documents that implicated his family in matters he had never questioned, secrets that threatened to shatter the life he had known. And standing there, watching him read, she looked smaller, almost fragile, yet there was determination in her eyes. Suddenly, the stakes shifted. Their reunion was no longer just about love or the pain of lost years. It was entangled with betrayal, family secrets, and a dangerous truth that could change everything. He realized their past connection might be the only thing that could navigate them through what was coming. But neither of them knew if trust could survive the storm about to break. He looked up from the papers, his mind racing. The documents revealed that his parents' wealth wasn't just built on hard work, it was tangled in shady deals and hidden debts that threatened to ruin them all. His childhood sweetheart had uncovered it months ago while working quietly in the mansion, trying to protect him without drawing attention. She had stayed close, pretending to be just a maid, waiting for the right moment to warn him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked, his voice tight with anger and disbelief. "I had to be sure. I couldn't risk your family finding out I knew," she replied, her eyes pleading. "I wanted you to see it with your own eyes, to choose what to do next." For the first time, he truly saw her not as the girl from his childhood, not as the maid in his family's home, but as someone brave enough to face danger for him. Together, they confronted his parents, who were shocked and defensive. But eventually, the truth came spilling out. The confrontation was intense, emotions raw, and for a moment, it seemed nothing could fix what had been broken. Then, just as they thought the storm was over, a phone rang. She answered it, her expression changing from calm to alarm. On the line was a voice she hadn't expected, someone from her past. Someone who knew even darker secrets about the family. The mansion fell silent as the tension shifted, leaving both of them realizing that even with the truth revealed, the real challenge was only just beginning. She hung up the phone, her hands shaking slightly, but there was a newfound strength in her eyes. "It's handled," she said quietly, and he realized that the shadows of the past could no longer control them. Together, they faced the consequences of the revelations, making difficult decisions about his parents' business and ensuring that the truth no longer stayed buried. It wasn't easy. There were tense conversations, apologies, and a lot of hard work, but for the first time, honesty replaced the secrets that had haunted the mansion for years. Through it all, he saw her courage and intelligence in a way he never had as a child. The bond they once shared, buried under years of distance and circumstance, began to bloom again, not as a fragile memory, but as a real connection rooted in respect and trust. They laughed, argued, and planned, but this time as equals, partners in both love and life. In the end, the mansion felt different, not just a house of wealth, but a home where past mistakes could be faced and new beginnings forged. He understood that life's greatest lessons weren't about luxury or privilege, but about loyalty, courage, and the people who stand by you when the world turns upside down. And as they walked through the halls together, he knew that some love, once tested by time and truth, was unbreakable.